Hi, I'm Dale Maxfield, and I'm here to quickly run through my favorite movies of 2014. These are not objectively the best movies of 2014. They're not necessarily the ones that we recommended the highest in our videos or written reviews or anything like that. These are just my personal favorites, so my personal best of 2014. And these are in chronological order that I saw them. So the first one is the Lego Movie. The Lego Movie surprised me, and it's probably still my favorite movie of 2014. Could not believe how good that movie was. Very well written, the animation is really great. It's a movie that you can recommend to anybody, that anybody can enjoy. I won't spoil it if you haven't seen it, but there's some stuff that happens toward the end of that movie that just makes it really extra special. It really transcends any kind of expectation that you would have of a movie that's just a Lego movie. The Grand Budapest Hotel, obviously a award-winning movie, but I really enjoyed it. It's Wes Anderson's best movie. Really great visuals. The comedy is really funny. It's this sort of black farce. Just really, really interesting in every aspect. The writing is great. The performances are great. It's really pretty to look at. I really enjoyed the Grand Budapest Hotel. Getting into the summer blockbusters, we had X-Men Days of Future Past. Fantastic movie. One of the best, if not the best, X-Men movies. Reuniting the entire cast, having the cast from the 90s X-Men movies or the 2000s X-Men movies and the new ones, sort of rebooting everything and retconning out in a really interesting and fitting way, retconning out some of the bad things that went on in some of the later X-Men movies. Really, really enjoyed that film. The scene with Quicksilver alone is worth the price of admission, but definitely, if you're a fan of superhero movies and you've shied away from the X-Men, check out First Class, the sort of prequel to this movie. Definitely watch First Class so that you're right on board for Days of Future Past, because it's worth seeing. Godzilla. Godzilla is a movie that when I went and saw it in the theater, all I could think when I walked out was they didn't mess it up. I was so worried about this movie, and it did so much better than I expected it to do. Yes, there are people that don't like how much focus there was on the human characters, how little they showed the monster, but I honestly thought it was great. I thought that they did a great job of taking that franchise and finally doing it justice in an American action movie. It is a great film. Neighbors. Probably the funniest R-rated comedy of the year, or close to it. I've got a few on my list that I really enjoyed. Neighbors was a smash success, but it's also it's a really funny movie. It's really well done. Seth Rogen, Rose Byrne, Zac Efron, Dave Franco. It's much better than I expected it to be as well, and did really well at the box office and really, I think, was a successful film. I really enjoyed it. Under the Skin. This one's out now on demand and gives a few more people a chance to see it. I think people were a little apprehensive about going to the theater to check this one out, or it wasn't necessarily the easiest movie to find. Under the Skin is a really hard movie to describe. It's about a character played by Scarlett Johansson who's not quite human. She is seducing men and they don't come back, and the movie is kind of a mystery to figure out why that's happening and what's happening. The whole thing is so beautiful to look at and so terrifying at the same time. You can't look away. It's a movie that'll make you think, and it's a movie that I really enjoyed. I would recommend. Captain America: The Winter Soldier. There's a couple of these superhero movies on this list that you would think, oh, okay, that's just, the big popular movie, and maybe that's what Dale's into is superhero movies. No, The Winter Soldier is not really a superhero movie. It's like this spy movie that has Captain America in it. It's like this intrigue, mystery thriller that they got to make because, you know, all of these other superhero movies have been made, and so they can start expanding into other genres and making other things, which comes up again later in the year. The Winter Soldier is amazing, and I can't get over how successfully they mixed up the genres or switched genres on us entirely and told us a different story using characters that they had basically shown us before or put in superhero movies before, which leads into Guardians of the Galaxy, the second most successful film of the year. It barely got beaten by The Hunger Games, Mockingjay Part 1, but to give Mockingjay a little bit of credit, it wasn't out for as long during the year, so it's impressive that it was able to get ahead of it. But Guardians of the Galaxy was the little movie that no one expected to do well and everybody was worried about, and it was just great. Smashed records at the box office for August, did incredibly well. It's one of the funniest movies of the year. It's one of the easiest movies to recommend. I took my kids to it that are 5 and 6, and it's a PG-13 movie. I didn't care. They enjoyed it. We loved it. Guardians of the Galaxy, obviously. If you're watching a top list of the year and you haven't heard of Guardians of the Galaxy yet, I don't know what to tell you. Lucy. Lucy is a Luc Besson movie with Scarlett Johansson, and it's interesting because it has a very similar concept to the Johnny Depp movie Transcendence, which was terrible. But Lucy just takes it in this whole other crazy direction. It's a very silly movie. I mean, Luc Besson has done movies like The Fifth Element that are pretty silly. Lucy is incredibly silly. It's incredibly over the top and ridiculous. But it's so much fun, and it knows what it is. It's having a good time with being what it is. And it's fun to watch Scarlett Johansson kick ass. It's fun to watch what would it be like if Scarlett Johansson became super smart, even though the movie like goes off that whole rubric of, you know, we only use 10% of our brains, and what if we had 100% of our brains? It's like, well, everything about that is wrong, but it's still fun. The movie's funny. Snowpiercer, great film, really enjoyed it. That's another hard film to really describe, but it's adapted from a graphic novel, and it's sort of a action movie that takes place. They move from train car to train car, moving up through to the front, from sort of the ghetto section, which is in the very back of the car, to the posh section is in the front. And it has a very episodic feel within the movie, which is kind of off-putting if you don't really know to expect it. But every time they change cars, it's like they changed episodes, or they changed books, they changed issues in the comic. So it has this very, like, there are through lines, there are characters that are there for the entire movie. But it's very much, you know, anytime they change from one car to another, there's a bunch of revelations, and then the story kind of goes in a different direction. It's a really good movie, and another Chris Evans movie. So there's 2 Chris Evans movies on my list, 2 Chris Pratt movies on my list. So good film. I really enjoyed it. Dawn of the Planet of the Apes, another great movie. If there weren't so many great 3D action-adventure movies this year, I mean, I've already listed like 4 or 5 of them, I think people would really talk about Dawn of the Planet of the Apes more. It's really well done. The motion capture is really good. The story's good. It tells a really good story. It has a very good mission or message about, you know, the difference between humans and the apes in the film universe. Just a really well done movie. Just a really great I think it's better than the Rise of the Planet of the Apes, the previous version of, or the previous one in this series. It's really good. This Is Where I Leave You. I really enjoyed it. It's a movie with Jason Bateman and a bunch of other cast, Tina Fey and Jane Fonda, and the premise of the movie is that they are sitting Shiva for their Jason Bateman's father, who's passed away, and there's all of these hijinks and shenanigans that happen around it, but it also is a very heartfelt and dramatic movie, as well as a funny movie. Timothy Olyphant shows up in it. Yeah, I don't know. It's hard to describe a good comedy without giving things away, or hard to describe movies like that without, getting too much into the details. But I really enjoyed that. And if you're, in the mood for that kind of ensemble, family kind of movie, I really enjoyed it. I liked it a lot. Get On Up, the James Brown biopic. I don't know what happened to this movie. It came out, we saw it opening night, we loved it, and I don't know, critics didn't seem to care for it very much. Audiences kind of shied away from it. We thought that it was a shoo-in contender for Best Actor nomination. That didn't happen. It's a great, funny movie, and one of the things I really liked about it is it doesn't shy away from the sort of insane side of James Brown, the hopped up on drugs and doing crazy stuff James Brown, because it would have been such a mistake and such a waste to do a movie that was just, James Brown was wonderful and he made everything great and he transformed music and all of this kind of thing. And it says a lot of those things, but it doesn't take away from the fact that he's human and he makes mistakes and he does terrible things and he grows up in terrible circumstances, but he also, lives through times where terrible things are a little bit more acceptable, or a little bit more universal. And so, some of the things that he does don't really add up for something that would be acceptable today, but at the time it was more, what you would expect from somebody. I really enjoyed it. The music is a lot of fun. It doesn't bother me how long it is. It was a longer film, but I liked all of the relationships in it. There's this great scene with him and Little Richard that is worth the price of admission. I don't know, man. I liked it. Get On Up. If you haven't checked it out, or if you shied away because no one's said something positive about it, there's my recommendation. Check it out. Whiplash. Great film. It's the movie about the drummer, and J.K. Simmons is his teacher, and it's got a lot of awards buzz and a lot of attention. I think people are starting to see it now and starting to catch up on it, but really great film, really great movie for anybody that's really, worked hard at something like that, at something like really getting good at playing the drums, or really dealt with a teacher or a mentor or somebody that just really pushed you to the breaking point, and you realized that that's what you needed. That's, as sick as that relationship is, that's what you need, and that's important. Really enjoyed that one. Another sort of awards darling is Birdman, and not to add additional heaps of praise on top of that, but it's also an incredibly great movie. The cinematography is fantastic. It's the same cinematographer as the movie Gravity. They make it look like it's one long shot all the way through. It feels kind of off. There are people that I know that see that movie and it irritates them in some way, and they can't really put their finger on it because of the way it's shot and because of the single takes and all of that. it really comes across as if they shot a play, like a stage play, that was kind of, it wasn't perfected for the camera. It's like they're using the take that did the best for everybody, but it's not necessarily as clean and perfect for the camera as it could have been. And since it's a single camera and they don't, go back and forth between two people, if both people that are talking aren't in the shot, you only see the person that's in the shot. So it feels very much like you're a voyeur kind of walking through unseen and experiencing all of these different things that are going on in the movie. But I really like that. It's this sort of weird blend of a stage play and a movie wrapped up into one. And Michael Keaton is Birdman. You gotta love that. Nightcrawler. Nightcrawler should have a lot more attention paid to it. I think it got recognized for the screenplay. Jake Gyllenhaal's performance in that movie is amazing. It's similar to Patrick Bateman from American Psycho, but he has this sort of energy and this weird. It's like a mix between Patrick Bateman and Ayn Rand in a weird way. He's like this entrepreneur, and he's doing things that are despicable and sociopathic, but they're the exact right things to succeed at producing television news. It's a fantastic performance to watch. It's shot beautifully. The ending's a little strange, but other than that, it is fantastic. And I say a little strange. It's not bad. It's just different than what you would kind of expect it to be. Really great movie. Really great performance in that. Gone Girl is a movie that I didn't think people would overlook so much. For end-of-year lists or, award season or that sort of thing. Gone Girl is an amazing David Fincher movie. It's a great adaptation of the book. I read the book a couple of years ago, a year or two ago, and it's really a great adaptation of that. Rosamund Pike's performance is amazing. If that performance doesn't lead to bigger and better things for her, then someone's like not paying attention. Ben Affleck's great in it too, but we've seen him do great things before. This is really her moment, her big chance right here, and I really enjoyed Gone Girl. I enjoyed the book too, and so watching it with people that hadn't heard of the plot before or seen it before, and watching their reactions to the twists and all of that. It's really well done. David Fincher does really, really great adaptations. So, Gone Girl, very good. St. Vincent with Bill Murray and Melissa McCarthy. And I don't often say that Melissa McCarthy is... she's not like my favorite, but... She's good in this. Bill Murray's great in it. It's a great little story. Basically, Bill Murray lives next door to Melissa McCarthy and her son, and ends up watching him when she's at work to help her out, but mostly to make money and mostly to serve the plot of the movie and just be a funny thing. And the movie is called St. Vincent because the kid ends up doing a presentation for his school about, living saints or people that exhibit saintly qualities, and he ends up doing his presentation on Bill Murray's character, who's named Vincent, which is really funny because his character is very far from what you would consider a saint character. Naomi Watts shows up as his sometimes girlfriend, who's also a stripper and a prostitute. It's it's a funny movie. And watching Bill Murray in that role is just so much fun. There's a scene during the credits that's just him singing in a lawn chair with a hose, and you can't not watch it. You can't stand up and leave the theater until that's over. It's amazing. It's amazing. Down to the last two, The Babadook. Great horror movie. Not a lot of people got to see it in the theater, especially in America. I don't think we got a release of it at all. A couple of art house theaters pulled it out, but fantastic film. I've talked about it on this before, but it's one of the best horror movies of the last decade. First time director. She did an amazing job directing. Essie Davis is the star of the movie. She should have gotten a Best Actress nomination for her performance as well. It's an incredible performance. It's a horror movie, but it's a psychological thriller style of horror movie. It's not... the trailers kind of make it look like a monster movie, but that's not really what it is. It's definitely a psychological thriller. It's what's really happening, and it kind of gets under your skin, and you start wondering if you can trust what you're seeing, or if there's some deeper meaning or cause to what's going on. And then finally, the last movie I saw that's on my list here is The Imitation Game with Benedict Cumberbatch as Alan Turing. It's interesting because there's a movie called Enigma that I saw 10 years or so ago with Kate Winslet, and it's a similar, it tells the story of breaking the Enigma code, but it doesn't really deal with Turing himself. And this is very much about breaking the Enigma code, but it also talks about what happened to Turing after the war. And if you're not familiar with that name, Alan Turing is he's known as the father of modern computing. The work that he did on Enigma, essentially it shortened World War II by at least 2 years, potentially won the war, or at least led to us winning the war. And he just did this incredible work and work with binary and all of that, and the laws of the time were that being homosexual was illegal, and Alan Turing was homosexual, and when they found out about it after the war, they gave him the choice between jail time and being chemically castrated, and he chose to be chemically castrated and ended up committing suicide. So it wasn't until, it's only been like 5 or 6 years now since the government, or basically the Queen of England, apologized for, posthumously apologized for the treatment of Alan Turing, because it was a complete injustice. This guy was a hero in every sense of the word. Pioneering scientist, engineer, computer technology guy, and did not deserve what happened to him in any way. Not that anyone deserves that, but certainly, that's not how you treat a war hero. But that was the story in The Imitation Game. So that's my list. That's 20 movies, my favorites for 2014. What are your favorites? Did you like my list? Do you agree with it? Let me know. Send some stuff in the comments, and maybe there's something that I haven't seen yet that you can turn me on to, or maybe you hate everything on my list and you want to tell me about that. That's fine too. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you next time.